Picture this, right at this exact moment, someone is shivering in a snowstorm, another person is sweating in a scorching desert, and a third is watching massive monsoon clouds flood a lush green forest. Crazy, right? Well, in this explainer, we're diving into one of the most incredibly diverse climates on the planet. We're going to travel from the icy peaks of the Himalayas straight down to the tropical beaches of Kerala, and from the sun-baked dunes of the Thar Desert all the way to the rain-soaked forests of Meghalaya. We're looking at a place where every single season tells a rich, deeply interconnected story. Let's get into it.
Here's how we're going to break it all down today. First, weather versus climate. Second, the forces shaping climate. Third, the four seasons. Fourth, the mighty monsoon. And finally, number 5, the impact on lives.
All right, let's jump right into part 1, weather versus climate, setting the baseline. You know, people mix these two terms up all the time, but the difference is actually super simple. Weather? That's about your daily changes. It's short term, like a sunny morning that suddenly turns into a massive afternoon thunderstorm, or maybe a foggy evening. Climate, on the other hand, is the long-term pattern. It's the average of that weather over many, many years. Think of it like this. Weather dictates what outfit you choose to wear today. Do you need to grab an umbrella or a jacket? But climate? Climate dictates your entire wardrobe. It's the overarching rulebook that tells you whether you even need to own snow boots or sandals in the first place.
Which brings us to part 2, the forces shaping climate, the invisible rules. Because, look, climate doesn't just happen by accident. It's heavily controlled by 5 major physical factors. First up, latitude, where a place actually sits on the globe relative to the equator. Then altitude, how high up it is. We've also got distance from the sea, the prevailing winds sweeping across the land, and finally, relief, or topography, meaning the physical shapes of the mountains and valleys. These 5 factors are essentially the invisible hands that dictate why one region in India is baking in the sun, while another, literally just a few hundred miles away, is freezing cold.
Let's look at altitude, for instance. As you move from the plains up into the mountains, the temperature reliably drops. It just gets colder the higher you go. It's basically nature's air conditioner. This is exactly why, during the scorching summer months when the Indian plains are dealing with intense heat waves, hill stations like Shimla in the north, Darjeeling in the east, or Uti in the south stay wonderfully cool and pleasant. And up in Leh, the altitude is so extreme there that temperatures stay remarkably low all year round. Another massive player here is distance from the sea. If you live in a coastal city, say Mumbai or Chennai, you get this amazing moderating effect. Because land and water heat up and cool down at totally different rates, it creates this constant natural exchange of breezes, a sea breeze during the day and a land breeze at night. It keeps coastal temperatures pretty stable. But if you move deep into the interior of the country, far away from that oceanic air conditioning, the climate becomes much more extreme. We're talking incredibly hot summers and noticeably colder winters.
All right, part 3, the 4 seasons, a temporal map.
So let's walk through how this plays out across the calendar year. From November to February, we've got winter. Picture thick fogs, bonfires, people bundled up in woolens, and heavy snowfall up in the Himalayas. Then from March to May, summer takes over. The golden sunlight gets harsh, rivers dry up, and these hot, dusty winds, known as the Lu, sweep across the northern plains. But then, just when the heat feels almost unbearable, June to September brings the great monsoon. Dark clouds gather, lightning strikes, and the parched earth is instantly transformed into lush green forests. Finally, October-November bring autumn, characterized by clear blue skies, a golden harvest, and a really peaceful transition back toward the cold. But here's the big question. We just saw that massive shift in June, but what actually creates the dramatic, life-changing arrival of the monsoon? How on earth does an entire subcontinent go from bone dry to flooded seemingly overnight?
Okay, to answer that, we need to dive into a critical meteorological concept, orographic rainfall. Basically, when heavy, moisture-laden clouds blow in from the ocean, they eventually crash into mountain ranges. As the winds force those clouds up the side of the mountain, the air cools down. And since cold air can't hold as much moisture, it just dumps all that water as heavy rain on the windward side of the mountain. But by the time those clouds cross over the peak and head down the other side, they're practically empty. This creates what we call a rain shadow, a super dry area right behind a mountain range. Keep this concept in your back pocket. It is absolutely the secret to understanding India's rainfall patterns.
Which leads us perfectly into part 4, the mighty monsoon, the main event. So here is the step-by-step narrative of how this massive system operates. Step 1, that intense summer heat we just talked about, bakes the Indian landmass, causing the air above it to rise and creating a huge zone of low pressure.
Step 2, well, nature hates a vacuum, right? So high-pressure air over the Indian Ocean rushes in to fill that void, drawing literally millions of tons of moisture from the sea. Step 3, as these moisture-heavy winds hit the southern tip of India, the monsoon actually splits into two distinct branches, the Arabian Sea branch and the Bay of Bengal branch. And finally, step 4, as autumn approaches, the land cools, the pressure reverses, and the monsoon retreats back out to the sea.
Let's zoom in on that dramatic split for a second. The Arabian Sea branch slams directly into the western coast of India. Remember orographic rainfall? These clouds hit the Western Ghats, which is this towering mountain range, and they dump massive amounts of water on states like Kerala, creating incredibly dense forests and lush tea plantations. Meanwhile, the Bay of Bengal branch sweeps up toward northeast India. It collides with the Himalayas and the surrounding hills, funneling unbelievable amounts of water into places like Meghalaya, and specifically Mawsynram. Mawsynram is actually famous for being one of the wettest places on the entire planet, receiving nearly 12 meters of rain a year. To put that into perspective, that's enough water to cover a 4-story building.
But you know, what goes up must come down. As we move into autumn, the winds literally reverse direction. This is the retreating monsoon. The clouds withdraw from the northern plains, leaving behind clear skies, but really high temperatures and humidity. It's a deeply uncomfortable phenomenon known as October heat. And as these retreating winds blow back down over the Bay of Bengal, they pick up moisture all over again and strike the southeastern coast. This brings the northeast monsoon, delivering heavy vital rainfall and sometimes intense cyclones to the state of Tamil Nadu, right at the exact time the rest of the country's drying out. And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, Impact on Lives, the Consequence. So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that this weather data is deeply, intimately personal. It dictates absolutely everything. It literally tells farmers exactly when to sow their rice fields. It dictates the regional food we eat, whether kids wear light cotton or heavy wool to school, and even how houses are built. You'll see steep sloping roofs in the rainy south and thick insulated walls in the arid desert. Entire cultural festivals are timed perfectly to celebrate the harvest seasons brought on by the retreating monsoons. Even the modern economy relies heavily on the cycle, with hydroelectric dams waiting all year for those specific monsoon rains just to generate power. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. India's climate is so much more than just changing weather. It shapes the land, the crops, the culture, the festivals, and the very lives of the people. Understanding the climate really helps us understand India itself. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? If the climate shapes the very identity of a nation, how will changing global weather patterns rewrite the story of India's future? Something to think about. Keep exploring, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.